pleasure to talk about the Innovative Medicines Initiative from an industry perspective. Now, I'm sure you're all well aware that there has been a lot of anxiety about the escalating costs of R&D in the pharmaceutical industry, as shown here. But this increase in cost has not been met by an increase in the number of new medicines reaching patients. Now, for the industry, the key imperatives are really how do we focus on those medicines that really meet some of the tough, unmet medical needs, like new drugs for Alzheimer's disease or for some of the more debilitating conditions of the other debilitating conditions of the elderly. How can we reduce the risk of development? When you start a clinical research program, your chances of success are less than 1 in 10, probably more like 1 in 20 or even lower than that in neurological conditions. How can we have the right information to make the best decisions about our medicines and do this in a backdrop of trying to reduce costs and timelines? The average timeline in development for a new medicine has increased by two years per medicine over the last decade. So the reasons underlying this, why it's so challenging, and why the IMI is actually an initiative whose time has come, is because the unmet medical need is there, but the regulatory hurdles, the reimbursement hurdles, how can we get surrogates of efficacy early to give us courage to do the very large disease modification trials that are going to be necessary. So we need to have novel biomarkers and endpoints. One company could not tackle these issues in a lifetime. We need to work together, and that's been a gradual recognition over the last decade across the industry. So that we need not only to work together as an industry with large pharma, but also to work with our colleagues in biotech and academia. The number one driver is high quality science, but clearly the relevant infrastructure, the cooperation and culture to actually work together and be prepared to look at doing things differently is very important too. So the European Union is well placed to deliver on these things, but the European Union is one group of countries. We are a global industry, and until recently there was a significant movement of research out of Europe, either back to the US or pharmaceutical research, or to the east, to India and to China. Now, one of the intangible benefits of the IMI's efforts straight away is it has really focused companies' interest and exploration of the opportunities doing research and development in Europe offers. And you can see by the number of EFPIA companies that have been involved in this process how this process itself has galvanized that interaction, as well as clearly the numbers of countries involved from a European Union perspective. So Sandra's already emphasised the uniqueness of this public-private partnership, the size, the scope, the level of industry engagement already. And I must say that Peggy Hamburg, the new commissioner of the FDA, has looked at the model of IMI and is looking to perhaps replicate some of that, or certainly encourage replication of that in the US. And it's unique in its management and finance, and we heard today about the autonomy of the JTI. If the IMI is going to be successful, it should help to reinvigorate the European bioscience base and strengthen the relationship between the science base and the pharmaceutical sector. This should, in turn, increase the economic impact of the excellent science done within the European Union and attract further inward investment. And this whole working together, coming up with novel biomarkers and validating them is really, as one example of working together, will really change, we believe, the environment in Europe that will enable new medicines to get to patients faster, which is after all about. We want to try and make the culture one of an open innovation culture. Open access, open innovation, so really being encouraging companies to work together to leverage their IP where feasible to make the data publicly available, but really to try and solve some of these big questions in partnership. We hope as well that by bringing the parties together that we will be able to demonstrate to entrepreneurial academics that there is real benefit in working more closely with pharma and having strategic and developing strategic longer-term relationships. And clearly from a mechanism, a delivery mechanism point of view, showing that the JTIs are an effective mechanism for responding to the challenges of industry. And Sandra made the point that this is about responding to some of these challenges. So it is a different way of perhaps soliciting research proposals and calls, because what we're after here is, if you like, industry has some very big questions that we need to answer for patients and for medicines development. And so the questions are defined by the Strategic Research Agenda, which describes the bottlenecks at a very broad level in drug development for a number of different areas. It isn't about creating, as Sandra said, new medicines per se, but it's about enabling the environment to get those medicines developed much more rapidly. And the Strategic Research Agenda was published in 2006, and it's going to be reviewed by the Scientific Committee of the IMI in 2010 to update it. The EFPIA Research Directors Group, of which I'm a member, selects the priority areas for each call from this Strategic Research Agenda. So it's a very important document. Now, I just want to give you two examples of the successful consortia that emerged from the first call, just to give you a flavour of the types of things that have been funded. And the first one I want to talk about is Proactive, which is really to develop new patient-reported outcomes for COPD. You can see that there are a number of participants, both from the academic side, from the company side, but also from patient care organisations and regulators. It allows us to have a discussion about some of these issues in a very open forum. And the deliverables are novel patient-reported outcomes, which the consortia have agreed are very important for demonstrating potential efficacy of new compounds. And so this has a wide range of deliverables in this particular space, and it shows very clearly how a number of different stakeholders can work together. Pharmacog is another area, consortia, and this is one particularly close to my heart, which is to accelerate medicines development in Alzheimer's disease. And again, a number of different academic departments, one patient organisation, companies and other SMEs working together with regulatory input as well to try and get novel validated models which will allow better prediction of efficacy, improve our translation of that into the human condition, looking to develop biomarkers that might enable us to make better decisions earlier on disease progression, and trying to standardise some of the protocols. Anybody who's ever tried to compare data from either animal experiments or if you're in a human clinical experiment will know how difficult it is when everybody does everything just slightly different. So, and this will, again, create a network and an infrastructure which will add value across Europe, I think, in terms of, and make it a very good place to carry out both preclinical and clinical studies.